desperation is one of the best paths to innovation.
Nice.
You don't have a choice. You have to do it. I don't know if I stole that quote from anybody, but
well, the mother of invention is necessity, right? That phrase, which kind of is similar, right?
Yeah.
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 But very good. No, I like the way I actually like your phrase better.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I mean, the cold calling thing and doing that stuff just didn't quite do it. I mean, I wasn't making any sales. I was like, all right, I got to figure something else out.
And then we can, I'll share this out. Go ahead. Clayton Carroll, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'd like to say, first and foremost, the way that I look at myself is I look at myself as a family man. Have a wife. We've been married almost 7 years, which a lot of people, when I say that to them, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm 29. They're like, what? I'm like, hey, I'll take it as a compliment.
You look a lot younger, actually. I thought you were actually a lot younger.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So very nice, yeah, 29.
It kind of, it works both ways. It's like, okay, you look younger, but at the same time, when you're in a meeting with somebody, it's almost like you have to get to a certain threshold before some people take you seriously because you look really young.
Yeah.
But so like I said, I consider myself a family man first. My wife and I have a son who's about 2.5 years old, and every stereotype of the high energy 2-year-old, that's him. Like, seriously, he's got a motor that doesn't stop. It's insane. And my wife is also pregnant. She's due in June. So,
oh, congratulations! I didn't know that.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
I've got my son just turned 5, and I've got a daughter.
Oh, okay, nice.
I've been through what you've been through, brother. So I know exactly what you've gone through. And I actually wanted to ask you about social media and kids, but please continue with your bio. I've got a lot of great questions for you.
Yeah. Which anybody that's gone through it knows. It's like when you have your first and you're about ready to have your second, you're like, oh dear God, I just started sleeping again.
Oh my God. So, aren't you going to have 3 and 4? Don't you want to have 5 and 6?
I mean, I do, but it's up to my wife, really. I mean, right. I do. If it were up to me, we'd have 7, but that's just me. So like I said, I consider myself a family man, and I have a little bit of an interesting background because I honestly had no concept about what business meant until I graduated college. Well, not actually, like the year before I graduated, because the year before I graduated, I started working for my fiance, and then shortly after that, wife, her parents' company, and which is a manufacturing company. And I did some work for them in recruiting dealers and market development and some sales. This was back in 2010. And at the time, I was getting my degree in philosophy and religion from Covenant College in Georgia because I wanted to become a pastor. I wanted to go into the ministry. And my wife and I had a conversation. It was sometime 2010. I remember because we were sitting on the couch in Georgia, and she just looked at me and said, you can't be a pastor. You can't do it. So at that point I was like, okay. And so I got my degree in philosophy of religion with a French minor, actually, which is funny because I only took 2 French classes, and I told them to take it off my transcript, but they gave it to me anyways. So I don't really speak that good of French anymore. But so after I graduated, I went back to work for her parents' company, and which, just so you know, the equipment that they manufacture fixes potholes. And so, which is always very popular, especially in Michigan, where when you go down the street, it's basically like driving on the moon because there's so many craters in Michigan. Yeah. It's just insane. And so
I remember, I used to live in Indiana when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
I was actually raised in Evansville, Indiana. I'm kind of an East Coast boy.
Nice.
Yeah. Cause I even though I live in California for about maybe 30 years now. I've been living in California. I just turned 40 in December, so I'm a lot older than you. But I remember the Indiana. Wow, I remember the Indiana landscape, and it's not that different, I wouldn't imagine, than Michigan. But
it's pretty similar.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, so I started working for them again in the summer, and when I first started, it was basically like I didn't really have a job necessarily. I kind of had to make my own job. And so as a result, I started getting involved with a bunch of different things. Like I remember one week, I chased down a rabbit hole of LEED certification. If you're familiar with that, with like buildings, they get the green stamp on it with LEED certification, because the equipment that the company manufactured would recycle asphalt. So I chased that angle down as a way to, like, you know, get a grant or get people to buy it or whatever, because that was my job, was basically try to get people to buy equipment. And whether that was cold calling, which I did a lot of cold calling, or like the LEED thing. And it just didn't go very good, because anybody that can tell you that's been cold calling, and especially now that with the software company, that's what I basically spent the last week, a few days last week, and then the week before that was cold calling. It's just like, I said to my wife after I got done doing it, it was like dating in high school, just rejection all over. Constant rejection. Because that's what it's like.
There's a lot of, isn't it funny? That. Yeah, there's a lot of rejection in sales, isn't it? It's like you got to get.
Oh my gosh!
The way that you just said that, Clayton. The way that you, and by the way, Robert C. Stern, thank you for joining. East Coasters know it better. Very nice, Robert. The way that you said that, Clayton, if I may interject, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's so interesting because we're living in, I try to tell my students all the time that, you know, this is, don't be afraid of no. No doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with you, or no doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you're a failure, or there's something, you know, you need to, like, you know, reevaluate or reassess. I mean, maybe re-strategize, but don't take it so personally. I was raised in telemarketing, and I hated it. I mean, I hated telemarketing, but I really got used to it. It was a good kind of, now that I look back, it was a good kind of school of, like, you know, it was so funny because my supervisor would come by. He would laugh at me so much because he would say, exactly, Robert, rejection is part of life. Over the course of our lives, we will get 75, very true, 75% no's. You know, my supervisor would laugh at me because he'd be like, "Dude, why are you talking about God with the leads? What's wrong with you?" I would literally, not even kidding you, Clayton, I would have like hour-long conversations and not even mention the timeshare or whatever the hell we were pushing. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
It was like, I would just talk to people because I felt so weird. I was just a 19-year-old punk. I mean, I felt so weird, like being like, "Hey, don't you want to come join our timeshare?" I mean, I eventually made sales because I'm a good communicator, or at least I was at the time, and for what it was. And but it's so interesting that you say that rejection. It was like being in high school all over. That's really cool, man.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's you know, you just have to accept that things will never work the way you want them to work, and everything will take a lot longer than you want it to take, because so framing that up, that was sort of how I started, basically trying to make a job for myself and just doing everything I could, because I didn't really know anything about business, sales, marketing, anything to do with that. This was all new to me. Now, thankfully, my wife's father, fantastic mentor for me, like taught me tons of stuff. And so what happened was, he was the president for the company.
Oh, cool.
And he worked for, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the furniture company, Herman Miller. They manufacture office furniture.
No.
He was the COO for them, and then he started
nationally. They were a national
Eric
brand,
Prince.
or were they a national brand?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because he talks about it. He's like, "Well, when I got there, the stock was here. When I left, the stock was there. A year later, the stock was there, which he's right about that. You can see that if you look in the stock history of Herman Miller, you can see the stock go. Wing.
Yeah.
And then he left there actually to start a company with Eric Prince. If you're familiar with Eric Prince of Blackwater, so he started called Prince Manufacturing. Started a company with him. Where companies would basically outsource manufacturing to them. And then he went to another office furniture industry, a smaller company called Trendway. And then after he left there, that's when he went to the asphalt equipment manufacturing company. And so just a lot of experience, wonderful person, and just really happy to know him. And actually, it was awesome because I worked with my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, and my wife's uncle. And it was just wonderful. I loved every day of it. And so basically how I got into digital is desperation, quite honestly, because,
Wait, did you say, you kind of cut out there. Did you say desperation?
Yeah, desperation.
Okay, desperation. Very cool. No, very cool.
Digital. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Sometimes that can be an ultimate motivation,
Hey, what I say to my wife,
no shame,
desperation, trust me, I'll be honest about everything. Desperation is one of the best paths to innovation.
Nice.
You don't have a choice. You have to do it. I don't know if I stole that quote from anybody, but.
Well, the mother of invention is necessity, right? That phrase, which kind of is similar, right?
Yeah.
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 But very good. No, I like the way I actually like your phrase better.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So I mean, the cold calling thing and doing that stuff just didn't quite do it. I mean, I wasn't making any sales. I was like, all right, I got to figure something else out. Well, one day I got talking to my father-in-law and we were talking about search engine optimization, SEO. And now keep in mind at the time, this is 2011, and a lot of companies probably didn't have a page yet, or if they did, they didn't know what the heck was going on. Whereas now I think the number's like over 500,000, maybe it's more. It's a really high number of companies that have Facebook pages. And this was a time when in SEO, if anybody listening or if you're familiar with it, this was a time when all you had to do was optimize a few things and you would just shoot right up the rankings. Like this is back when meta descriptions actually meant something in meta words. And so I sort of got into this. I would basically.
What year was that, Clayton? I'm sorry. When was that?
2011.
2011. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yep. I was trying to think about like what you were talking about because like that was way before I got into this game. And Robert says, and by the way, Robert C. Stern, thank you, Robert, for joining us. Desperation makes you do and act, not think. I love the way you said that, Robert. Thank you for joining.
Yep.
Great comment. So I haven't been I've been on Facebook since 2007, but I haven't like really taken it seriously since like maybe 2014, 2013. And I love what you said. Like I hear a lot of people talk about how the days of, getting recognized or at least getting your word out there were so much simpler and so much more readily available. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting you say that.
It's a completely different game. And it's interesting sort of when you look at the macro of what's happened, especially when you look at where people move from one thing to the next. Like, the big thing was SEO back then, and now the big thing is shifted to social. And I don't know, the next big thing might be VR. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks
AR,
like it
VR,
might be
something like that. Yeah. So, but anyway, so basically what happened is every day before work, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and I'll always remember this. When I initially started this, I printed out a whole bunch of stuff from like Google and other places. And I just read and read and read and read and read. And then after like a month or so of doing this, that's when I started executing on the website. And it was awesome because it was like instantly the keywords that we wanted to rank for, we were like right at the top.
That's awesome.
With barely doing anything. I mean, it was like I put alt text in there. I put some keywords in the copy. make sure the meta descriptions were right, put meta keywords in there, and it was easy. And
did that produce a lot of sales?
Oh yeah. Oh my
Wow.
gosh. So here's what happened. So it started where we'd get like a phone call a month, and then that went to a phone call every other week, and then a phone call every week, a phone call every few days, and then it just the snowball effect from that.
That's awesome.
And oh, it was amazing. I mean, a year or two into this thing, I would get so many phone calls during the day that I couldn't handle them all, really. And then also, in addition to that, shortly after that, we started doing magazine advertising with a publication that really performed well with a big target market for us, which was asphalt contractors. And so that also really helped our marketing efforts, because that was basically, besides like the sales and dealer network, it was essentially we were working off referrals and the website and very limited print advertising, and then we do trade shows and other stuff. But so I mean, it was insane how much business it got us. And what happened is, as the website's doing well, it's bringing in leads, which are then turning into sales. The company itself is growing. Like, we're adding dealers. We're just every year over year growth, like over 30% every year.
Wow.
And it was a period of rapid growth for us. And what happened was I started getting involved in more areas of the business. So like I do some customer service. I would do limited troubleshooting with people. I would deliver equipment and train customers on the equipment. I also would create the actual production work order to build the equipment, and also schedule the manufacturing plant, and just do a whole bunch of different things.
Like an actual real university of business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you watch. I don't know if you watch, a lot of the stuff that I mean, one of the some of the things that I talk about a lot are being a writing professor is, it really makes me so, upset to see some of the curriculums that are out there, and some of the sort of learning kind of lesson plans and outcomes that just don't have anything to do with the real world. That where it's funny, because Robert says desperation makes you do and not think, and you talked about going into desperation. Now that I think about it, honestly, Clayton, I think that the reason why I really went all in on social and all in on my YouTube channel and doing this show and doing everything, even besides the fact that I love it, it really was desperation to share what I felt real education entailed with a larger audience, and having, not having the worry of, oh my gosh, if I'm doing it under somebody else's paycheck or under somebody else's umbrella, I could get, banned, fired, what have you, let go.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful freedom to share what I feel, because I have to say, Clayton, your story sounds so similar to mine in the sense that, my mom raised me in her business. She had a leather goods business, manufacturing, wholesale, retail. And I was raised in a business family. I mean, I went into education because I wanted to be an author. I wanted to be a writer. And there was no way to supplement my income except for teaching, right? Unless I was Stephen King. But I love what you said there. You said you learned how to do customer service. You worked in manufacturing. You did production. You did all these different aspects, which there's no business school on the planet that could come close to teaching you that real life experiential learning. That's what I love. I think that's why you're so good at, I think that's what differentiates you. I'm not even kidding. I think that background and that type of experience makes you who you are. I mean, you're only 29 years old. You're already very eloquent. You've got a great way of communicating. I can tell you're a good person. You got a good head on your shoulders. You got a big heart. You're a father.
I try to be.
Yeah, you're a family man. And how does that translate? Let me ask you this, because I've got so many questions for you, Clayton. I'm so intrigued. How does that translate, that kind of mentality and that background? How do you think that translates to social? Because you're obviously very personable. I notice you do a lot of stuff on Instagram where you actually show your kids and your family. How does that translate to your success in digital?
Well, I think that's it. I mean, who you are in the real world is amplified when you're on the internet. And
well said.
It's like, I mean, when you look at, so it's like, okay, some people, when they get online, are just awful, terrible people. And we've all interacted with those. And we don't
go to my
anything
YouTube
to
channel. No, I'm kidding. I've been noticing a lot more on Instagram, actually. I've been noticing a lot of spammers. Do you get that a lot, Clayton? You're heavy on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
I get all these people like, hey, you should like my page because you and me should be best buddies. And I'm like, really? Like, is that how you interact?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, quite honestly, when I see people do that,
how do you
I
react?
actually like it.
Oh, do you really?
Well, here, and here's the reason why, is because when I see people doing bad stuff, that means more people are doing bad stuff. So I have an opportunity to differentiate myself as someone that's not going to be terrible like that. And so obviously it's, not great, but I almost welcome it. Like, it's like, because I played basketball my whole life, played basketball in college, high school. I still try to play now, although I'm washed up. Like I got nothing left in the gas tank. And it would almost be like if, I'm playing basketball and someone just wanted to, so if you're familiar with basketball, when you have the ball around the 3-point line or into the basket, you want to face up on your man. You want to, get a hand in the face.
Right.
And in case they shoot, so you can affect the shot. Well, it would be like if my defender wanted to play 3 feet off me and just give me the free time. Yeah, give me the shot. I mean, I'm not going to make it every time, but yeah, exactly. If you don't want to play the game how you should play the game, hey, that gives me a better chance to beat you, because that's the mentality that I take to everything in life. Is I'm a very competitive person, and I think there's 2 big things that drive me. Is number 1, I'm very competitive. Number 2, I don't want to see other people get, I don't know if you'd call it bullied or made fun of for no reason. Just because, we all sort of
Clayton,
go through
your
that.
audio is kind of something. I think when you bumped into it, like when you scoot up in your chair, try to maybe unplug it or plug it in. It kind of got, okay, that's better. What did you do?
Am I good?
No, it's still staticky. Can you maybe bump? Something happened. Hit your computer. No, I'm kidding. Something happened, like you kind of bumped into it, or
I got excited.
You got too excited. You got way too excited.
What about now? Is it bad?
Yeah, for some reason it sounds like it's really staticky. Did you unplug your headphones? Okay, now we can't hear you at all. Whatever you just did,
I had it on mute.
There you are, perfect. Now you sound clear. Sorry, go ahead. Before you do that, Robert says the fact that Clayton has done the dirty work and understands it, so when he talks about it, he comes across as totally relatable to everyone. When you talk about your life as a story, and it is like the never-ending story because there's always something more to learn. I love that. Wow, Robert, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah,
great point.
Very well said. And to that point, I would say one thing I try to be like I said, I try to be very honest about everything and open. And one thing I try not to do is get out of my comfort zone in the sense I love getting out of my comfort zone, but getting out of my comfort zone in the sense of I don't want to talk about something or try to give advice on something where I either don't have a lot of experience with it or haven't gone through it myself. Or if I do, preface it by saying, hey, I haven't gone through this, but this is what I've heard or this is what I've learned. Just because I think there's a whole lot of people think that they can game the system now on the internet. And like the reason that I never talk about myself as, because the software company that I work at, I'm a founder, but the reason I never talk about myself as a founder or an entrepreneur for that matter is I feel like I haven't earned that title yet. And I want to, when I say that, and I actually, you know, put that in my Instagram bio or put that in my Facebook bio, I want to have the, like was said before, the dirty work to back that up.
Yeah.
Just because that's one of those things that really, really just kind of annoys me a little bit when, not coming from a place of like, this is what I actually did, but like a place of pride. It's just something that I don't really like at all. But I think I'm trying to remember what I was talking about originally.
Well, no, you were talking about when people, like we were talking about when people spam you on Instagram and you say, if that's how you want to play the game, because it feels like for some, I don't think it's always been like that. It kind of feels like Instagram is, I've been getting I love Instagram and I've been getting a lot of engagement on Instagram, great. But it feels like sometimes you almost feel a little skeptical about the people who engage with you. You're not really, you don't feel so, but I guess, I don't know. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just I kind of just laugh it off, but especially the ones who are so like overt about it. It's like, hey, you know what? You should like my page because you and I are like this. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a great, I love the immediacy and the creativity of Instagram, and I'm just crazy about it all. I love it all. Robert says there are auto responses, NEDRA, but in the Instagram now it is sad. Interesting. Yeah. What's NEDRA? I don't know.
It is. It's probably, I've never heard of it, but it's probably like Instagram, like an auto commenter. I think that's what a lot of people are doing is they're targeting hashtags. I've not done this, but I've heard you can target hashtags and then auto comment based on them. That's why like someone will share a photo of like, hey, I'm at grandma's funeral, I'm really sad. And then you'll get an auto comment that says, wow, this is a great photo. I'm so happy you look so happy, or something like that. You know, something completely out of context.
Interesting.
And it sort of depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll try to have a little fun with it, although no one ever responds to me, which I wish they would, because I don't like to use the word troll, but whenever I troll, because I love messing around, I love joking around, and whenever I sort of troll somebody, I always do it in a nice way. I try to go out of my way, especially online and en route, not make somebody feel bad about something to the point where like I'm insulting them personally. Right. And it's funny because like with my personality, I'm the type of person that I'm sort of oblivious to how other people.
We lost Clayton. You got to love live, folks. This is what happens. Probably something with his Wi-Fi.
A little bit of trolling of my own.
Okay. Clayton, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, we kind of lost you for a second there. We lost your image and your audio for just a second, but you're back.
Uh-oh.
It happens.
I'm back.
It happens. No big deal. You're back. Let me ask you this, Clayton. Let me ask you this. So are you getting a lot of leads on Instagram? Because I see you on, thank you, Robert. I notice you're doing a lot on Instagram, and maybe I'm just making maybe I'm being presumptuous. Are you mostly on Instagram, or is that just where I'm seeing you mostly? And A, are you on Instagram? And B, are you getting a lot of leads on Instagram, or are you just is that more your personal branding? You're just going to get your message out there?
Well, as far as leads go, no. I've gotten 0 leads through social media for the software company. Now, I would like to preface that by saying that I only started with it, I think it was last week. Yeah, last week. It's been about a week since we've launched, and I've focused mainly on offline, like physically going to different businesses and cold calling them. Because that's sort of the way that I had been using social media up to this point, is mainly as a practice mechanism. And the content of choice has been about social media, and in particular social media success stories, because the sort of overall vision for the software company is it's going to, the content marketing aspect is not going to be just specifically based on the software that we're selling. So like, you know, when you're searching for injury prevention, you'll find a blog on our website that talks about injury prevention. And oh, by the way, if you want to prevent injuries, go buy our software. You know, we will do stuff like that. And I've been preparing for that for a while. But we want to take a more broad overview of being a small business resource center. And that's why I'm fortunate enough to have contributors that have owned companies that can speak to like the business operations or like leadership or people skills or different things. And so it's something that I haven't ramped up yet, simply because I've just got so many other things that I've had to prepare. Like the last 2 freaking days, it took 2 days for me to do this. I went through every social profile for the ERP 101, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gab, SoundCloud, YouTube, FidMe. I went through everything and tried to make everything cohesive. Oh yeah, it's, you know, I'm.
Well, now you got to include Facebook stories and Messenger Day, right? I mean, it's so funny. I knew there was going to be like a damn tutorial on how to use Facebook stories for marketing. You know, it's like how to use Messenger Day for marketing. I even called it on my very first Messenger Day. I was like, how long do you think it's going to take for somebody to release a damn like course on how to do Messenger Day or something?
Oh yeah.
What do you think about that, by the way? I want to continue, and Robert has a really good question too. What do you think about that, by the way? What do you think about this sort of, because, you know, I love NEZNATION. You may not, well, you don't know this because we talked about it before we go live, but it's something that I feel strongly as well. And I was talking to Clayton about, you know, his sort of, when I would do my introduction, how I introduce him and just prepping him for the show. And I asked him, you know, I was going to say, you know, marketing expert, or, and I love it. Clayton stopped me really, really quickly and said, you know, I got to tell you, Professor Nez, I don't want to be known as an expert. Really, I'm not an expert, and I don't want to really be known as an expert. And I love the way he said that. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you come on the show, is that type of mentality. And I have a lot of students, they may not be watching it right now, but they're going to watch it on the replay. I might even assign them to watch it, because we have somebody who's around their age who is doing it, who's actually executing out there in the real world. You know, I'm trying to get them to think in that service mindset and get away. It's really easy to get an ego on these platforms once you get a little bit of reach. And when I say a little bit of reach, you can get that little bit of reach fairly quickly, I think, if you're doing, you know, if you're being very, very consistent. I think consistency sometimes, you know, I think nothing trumps quality. I think nothing trumps just really, really valuable, really high quality, high grade content. But sometimes consistency can get that short-term sort of fix, maybe not the long-term fix. And people, I think it's easy to get that sort of, well, yeah, I'm an expert. I'm an expert. I actually did a stream about this. Even though I've been a writing professor for over 15 years, I still don't consider myself an expert. And there's a very good reason for that, because I always want to keep my mind open to possibilities. There's no possibilities in an expert's mind, but in a beginner's mind, the world is full of possibilities. How do you feel about that, Clayton? Like, do you see this all the time? And you see all these people, you know, you see a lot of different people talking about, hey, you know, you want to be a millionaire? Follow me on Instagram. What's your thoughts on, and how did you adopt this mindset? Because this is really a mindset question. How did you adopt this mindset? And what do you think of all this sort of, hey, I'm an Instagram expert. I'm a Snapchat expert. I'm a Facebook story expert. What are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
Well, it's funny because when I first started putting out content, I had no idea what I was going to do, because I thought it was like, okay, you have to be an expert and you have to label yourself as such. And this is back last year in May. And I just struggled with this for such a long time, because I knew I needed to practice doing it and I needed something to do it for. And then I was watching a Gary Vaynerchuk video, and he said, document, not create. And that's when I was like, oh my goodness, that's it. I can document, not create.
Right.
And I can talk about stuff without striving to be an expert and sort of learn along the way, which is essentially what I've been doing. And that's why I'm on like every social network known to man, because
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
Yeah. I mean, it's because really social media serves two purposes, really. I mean, you know, I'm oversimplifying it, but it's a distribution mechanism, and it's also a platform for listening. And I'm just seeing what people are saying and getting in on the conversation.
Nice.
And, you know,
well
as
said.
far as like, thank you.
And welcome, Ryan. Ryan's in the house. Welcome. Thank you for joining, Ryan. And Adam. Adam's in the house. Thank you for joining. Sorry, go ahead, Clayton.
No worries. And I think someone else said that. I think I stole that from somebody. That's why it sounded so good. But, you know, as far
okay.
as like as far as your question goes about like, you see the millionaire mindset, or I see this all the time, especially on Instagram.
Especially on Instagram.
See these people. Oh yeah. They'll have these pictures of a McLaren F1 or like a Maserati or a Ferrari. And it's funny because if you look at it, if you just look in the, like when you see the 9 photos and you're scrolling down, you think, oh my goodness, they own that car. But then when you look on the description, it'll say like, looks nice, huh? Comment with a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess I'm not mad at them. I understand why they do it. I'm empathetic to it because you're trying to, you know, sell people your course, or you're trying to get people in your pyramid scheme. And, you know, that's fine. Whatever you want to do that, great.
Right.
But, you know, I'm going to be over here doing the right thing, which will always trump the quick and easy in the long run. Like, it's because the way that I look at things is I'm a very patient person, which is interesting because my wife is very not patient. So we balance each other out very good. But I just look at things in the long term, and it's like, okay, what you do, if it's good for the long term, it might not benefit you in the short term, but you're going to get there. You know, if you have a good intent and your execution is where it should be, then you'll get there. And as far as like how I got the mindset that I have, I think partly it's from being in sports and just having a competitor's mindset.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I played basketball, and I trained really, really hard for it.
You can't not play basketball in Indiana. If you don't play basketball, if you don't play basketball in Indiana, you get you get lynched practically, you know?
Yeah. Well, so here's an interesting side note. It's funny because I was just talking about this with somebody today. Somebody I played AAU with is in the NBA, which I would have never thought he would have made it there, but that's besides the point. But when I was in high school, we played a tournament in Indiana, in Fort Wayne it was called the Spies Fieldhouse or something like that. And we played against Greg Oden. It was the same tournament that Greg Oden and Mike Connolly Jr.'s team was in. Yeah, we never played them.
Okay.
But we played against one team. They were called Blessed in Jesus' Name. And oh my goodness, were they blessed in Jesus' name? That was not an understatement.
Really?
They destroyed us.
They're doing dunks from the free throw line? Literally walking on water? Yeah.
I'll tell you, the most important thing I learned from AAU basketball is how to prevent somebody from dunking over you. You make sure you get contact with them before they can get on the runway.
Nice. Yeah. Before they get on the runway.
Before they can get on the runway.
Nice. Nice way of putting it.
Because once it's takeoff, it's funny because I said to somebody a few weeks ago when I was playing pickup and they got dunked on, I said, I learned when I was 17, when someone's going to dunk it, just let them do it. Unless you really think you can block them.
Right. Now you're what, like 6'1", 6'2", Clayton?
About 6'7".
You're 6'7"? How did I not notice that?
So, well, you never normally see all of me. You normally
I'm always seeing like a bust shot or something. That's right. You know what's so funny is when I first saw Philly D. I don't know if you know who Philip DeFranco is from the. He's really big on YouTube, obviously. But it was so funny. Like I happened to click on something where he was doing something with his wife just by accident. I clicked on it actually.
Yeah.
And I noticed, like, I was like, it was weird. I was like, whoa, like he's actually got a little bit of like a spare tire. Like he looks so like, it's amazing. Really? Like you see these guys you've been watching these guys for sometimes, months, if not years, but you only see them from here up. And it's like, when you see them like in a different light, I would never have guessed that you're 6'7". So you must have played like what, power forward, maybe like the 4 spot, 5 spot sometimes.
I always wanted to play shooting guard, but I always got put in the post because of my height.
Well, maybe in the NBA you'd be a shooting guard height.
yeah, exactly.
Robert says you're all the same size when sitting down at the table.
Yeah.
Tell our wives that, will you,
That's
Robert?
True.
Thank you, Robert. That makes me feel better, I think.
Yeah. So I think as far as like, so the mindset, so part of that has to do with,
I'm having some major hair problems. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. Now I'm self-conscious. We're talking about height and size and shit.
Yeah. I got a lot of product in my hair. This doesn't happen.
Your hair is like slick as, that is some beautiful hair, my friend. When you get to 40, shit's going to change. Okay. Just think about that. Enjoy your golden. That. You look like $1 million. Yeah. Iman. Hey, Iman's in the house. Hey, Iman. Good to see you, brother. So go ahead. Yeah. You were talking, go ahead. You were talking about the kind of mindset.
Yes. So like part of it obviously has to do with athletics and sort of getting that competitive edge, which is you work really hard, but you also have a lot of patience. And I think another big part of it has to do with my faith, because the way that I look at the world is I look at everybody as an equal. Everybody is, everybody is a brother or sister in Christ. And that's how I sort of look at the world. And that gives me the sort of mental attitude of I'm just going to be patient. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be passionate. And I think that sort of all contributes to also the way that I'm wired is I'm wired to be very tenacious, but at the same time, very reserved if I need to be.
Yeah.
And so I guess it just all sort of, with the way I'm wired.
You're going to learn. You're going to have to learn to be a lot more patient, my friend, if you've got another one in the oven. Your patience meter better rise, my friend.
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
I love my kids, but they absolutely drive me crazy. But but because they come from me. I'm a nutbag. So can you imagine?
Yeah.
My wife is like just an absolute rock. Like if it wasn't for my wife, this house would be in such chaos. She is like an absolute, she is my total light, my everything. It's insane. Like, I don't know what I'd do without her. But with me, I'm such a nutbag that, it's like, I think my daughter, can you tell, and maybe I want to ask you about this question too. Can you tell if your son has more of your kind of personality or your wife's, or because your son's what? You said 4, 3?
2.5.
2.5. Okay. Yeah. Can you tell?
I think he's got a bit of both because.
Nice. Todd's in the house. Hey, Todd. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Clayton.
He is so passionate. I think that's the best way to put it.
Really?
If he doesn't get what he wants or he wants something, it's like the phrase kicking and screaming. We found that out real quick. It was funny because my wife said to me the other night, she said, is it normal for him to act like this?
Yeah.
When he was like going nuts. And I said, Martine, where do you think the phrase kicking and screaming comes from?
Have you gotten that? So, I'll never forget Sammy. Nora wasn't really quite, Nora's really been problematic recently. They're all in that age, right? That toddler age.
Yeah.
But Sammy, when he was a baby, his first year, there were times where literally we couldn't get him to stop crying. He was kind of colicky.
Oh
They
yeah.
didn't tell you that stuff. They said, oh, have kids. It's beautiful. Everything's wonderful.
Yeah.
You've fulfilled your soul's purpose and everything is just rainbows and unicorns. They don't tell you about all the stress and the pulling your hair out and the wondering, what am I doing wrong? And the worry that they're going to die any second.
Oh my gosh.
Like literally.
Yes.
Hey, Jerry's in the house. Good to see you, Jerry. Like literally, Clayton, my wife and I, if we hear somebody like cough, like we jump, we flinch. Sam's already choked on like,
hide him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't let him get the
Yeah. It's like, it's insane. It's like they now that they're mobile, like newborn kids are so easy because they just sit there and sleep and eat and shit. But like when they get mobile, when they actually turn mobile and they can crawl and they can walk, that's when it just gets insane. Jerry, I'm so good to see you. Welcome to the broadcast. Let me ask you this about kids, because this is so important, Clayton. I feel really reticent about this. I noticed that you show a lot of stuff on social media with you and your family, which I think is awesome. And I love those videos. A lot of people in the space feel they shouldn't, do this. A lot of people feel, that, they kind of leave their personal life over here and they don't want to get too personal. And they want to leave their family on this side of the wall. And this is me, this is all you get. And then other people feel, no, I show everything. This is my life. Casey Neistat does this on his YouTube channel. And he's got to have stalkers and haters and God knows how many people want to come after him at his level. How do you feel about that? Because I noticed you show a lot with your kids. Do you feel like showing them before they have the right to choose is fair, is not fair? Or does it even matter?
Well, I guess I would say that I think with a lot of things, like especially with parenting, I think the person that knows best is you, the parent, and it's fine, if someone wants to give you advice about something or say, well, you should do this, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's your choice. Right. And I wouldn't hold it against anybody. I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it.
I wouldn't judge. I don't judge anybody. I definitely don't like judging at all.
No.
Nice to see you, Jamie. Welcome to the broadcast. But do you feel like it's just a matter of like, this is a part of my life. And what you said at the beginning of the show really impressed me is you identified first as a family man, which I like. This is a show where we interview all sorts of social marketers. We interview creators, filmmakers, artists, writers, authors, YouTubers. But I love how you identified yourself right off the bat. The first thing you said was, I consider myself a family man first. I love that. Is that why you feel, is that why I think that's actually really commendable. Is that why you feel that this is something that's such a strong identity? Why wouldn't I, show? It's not like I'm showing anything inappropriate. The only reason I'm asking about this, Clayton, is because I kind of feel a little anxietal about it. I got to be honest. I don't know if I want it. I feel because there's so much that can go wrong in these kind of internet worlds, right? I just want to be as maybe it's just overprotective. I don't know. Maybe it's just stupidity. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too cautious. I don't like to show. It's so funny because a lot of my students are on my Snap and they say, how come you never show your wife or your kids? Where's your wife and kids? And it's like, I like to keep that over there. I'm one of those people. I kind of like to keep that private. That's my own kind of sphere and sanctuary. But I really am curious, and I've been doing a lot of talking. What are your thoughts?
Well, like I kind of said before, I think however anybody wants to do it is perfectly up to them. And I think one of the most important things with social media is that you're sort of sharing your truth, or really who you are and what you feel comfortable doing. Because if you don't feel comfortable doing it, or it's not really who you are, then people are going to notice. Especially if you're trying to build a personal brand or you're trying to market a company. I mean, just because you're marketing a company, which I haven't done this yet, but I plan on doing it. Just because you're marketing a company doesn't mean you can't add a personal touch to things. And that's where platforms like Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook video are very interesting with those, because you get to sort of see behind the logo and see past the tagline of like, who are these actual people that make up companies? Because that's what companies are. They're not, Pepsi is not the can. Pepsi is the people that work at Pepsi. That's the company. And they either enhance or decrease the brand. And so I think it's got to be what you're comfortable with. And to be honest, I don't really ever think about it. A lot of times it's sort of like, hey, it's a cute moment with my son. I'll take a picture of it and share it with people.
That's it. See, I love that. That's simple. Like, don't overthink it, NEZNATION. Yeah, don't overthink it. And I love that simplicity. I love that simplicity, Clayton. That's great.
Yeah.
It's just, if it's there, if it feels right, if it feels appropriate, it's a part of who I am, I'll do it. Yeah. It's so funny because that's my whole gig, is talking to people about this guy, the guy that lives inside your head. And maybe, I love the way you said that. So simple. It's so simple. It's just, it felt right. I'm with my son. It's a cute moment. And I've seen a lot. I think you're doing a lot of creative stuff, especially with stories. I've been watching your stories, especially Instagram stories. And
thank you.
I like the creative stuff you do. It's really fun, and it's really down to earth, and it's just, it's family friendly. I just think it's great. I love the stuff that you're doing with that. Have you tried out, are you doing more on Messenger Day and Facebook stories? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, like with anything, if there's a tension there, then you should at least explore it. And, now it's like there's 7 apps that are just like Snapchat. And I've sort of lately, I've been a lot more quiet on social than I was previously, like the last few weeks. And I think simply because we sort of got down to the stretch of launching the company, and it's just like a mad dash to the finish, and I'm just going out and calling on people, and it's just a whole lot of stuff going on. But as far as like with the new updates to Facebook, like when they came out with Facebook stories, I started laughing when they came out with it. It's going to happen. I think they had like a beta or something in Canada or something like that. I don't remember.
It was actually, it was actually released in Ireland, I think, first or something. They were rolling it out slowly. Yeah. Testing it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's cool. I've used it a little bit. I haven't really used it a lot. I think that when I gave a talk to a group of nonprofits back in November of last year, and I think it still is the same principle is true today, which is if you're using something like Snapchat or Instagram stories or Facebook stories, or if you're doing it on WhatsApp, I think WhatsApp has like a stories component into it now, whatever.
Yeah.
The skills that the skills that you learn doing that, the short form video communication, which by the way is really freaking hard. Like if you compare it, I've recorded like 10 vlogs, but I haven't uploaded anything. It's so easy to do that compared to something like Snapchat or Instagram stories or Facebook stories, because when you're in the context of 10, 15-second videos, and each one is sort of independent but linked together, you have to basically, with each one, you have to give somebody a reason to go to the next one, because if you don't, they're just gonna, they're looking at it and, well, see ya, you're gone. So
even sometimes if it's actually good, like it's so funny, like I'll even find, even if I like a story, I'm just like, I got it.
See ya.
It's interesting how that works. It's almost like what you're saying is each 10-second snap has its own beginning, middle, and end that have to be crafted, right? It's interesting.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I think the way that and like I said, I wouldn't consider myself an expert on Snapchat or Instagram stories or Facebook stories, but I have
definitely a practitioner though.
Yeah.
You're somebody who's definitely, I've been noticing a lot of stuff you've been doing is definitely a practitioner, and somebody that I think actually you're doing really well. Never mind the word expert, but I think that you're doing, because I've been saying this to my students. I think Snapchat, before Instagram stories came out, I called it 21st century storytelling. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's video merged with graphic design and it's concise, it's instant gratification, it's quick, it's to the point, it's direct. It's 21st century communication. I think Facebook and Periscope and Twitter and all those jumped on board because they knew this is the future. I mean, YouTube's been doing this forever, but Snapchat kind of made it a little sexier in a weird way. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you sort of like, there's no really best practice for it necessarily. I mean, if it's good, it's good. If you're good at storytelling, then you have to learn to do it within the context of Snapchat. Just like, some people might not be good on video, so they can storytell within the context of photos or within a podcast or within the written word. But with Snapchat, I always try to, and when I say Snapchat, I just mean the stories genre in general. I always try to look at it as sort of a, try to tell a story every time you do it. And like with each one, it's sort of how's that phrase go? The sum of the parts is great. I don't know it either. But I know what you mean. I was trying
I know which one you're talking about.
I was trying to dig deep for that one. I came up short. I didn't quite make it there.
I must sound smart. You know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Exactly. Great. So it's like you said, it's sort of, they're individual and it has to be punchy. It has to be interesting. And you just have to, I think one of the best ways to evaluate something is if you yourself enjoy it, then, it gets back to the intent and execution thing. Like if you have good intent and you think your execution is good, now you might suck, but you at least have to be okay with it. And then you sort of fine tune it. Because the way that I look at anything, whether it's social media, whether it's business, whether it's being a parent, being a husband, friend, whatever, it's all about continuous improvement and learning. Learn.
Well said.
And it's that the company that I was at previously, we had this phrase that we were a learning company. We were constantly learning and adapting. And that's part of the reason why we spanked our competitors, because we constantly reevaluated things. Like, obviously you don't want to dwell on your negatives, but there's a reason in the military why they have after action reviews. Now, I've never been in the military. I know people that have been in the military, but that sort of concept of you break down what exactly happened and how you can learn from it. I mean, that's with the software company, with the last few weeks, with going out and actually getting in front of customers and talking to them about the software. The best part about it is you actually get to talk to people and you get to learn. Like you really, when you develop something, you can get as much market research, as much feedback as you want. But until you actually put the rubber to the road and you actually go out there and talk to the market, you have no idea what's going to happen. And
good call.
So it's always nice to be able to do that. But that's the best thing about, like, when you're going out and talking to people or getting face to face with people, like I was doing with the cold calls, is you get to learn and refine your marketing message. Because that was I think that's one of the main purposes, is not necessarily to get new customers. It's just to, like, okay, I want to uncover new features, or I want to refine this. And that's like, I'm always like tweaking. I'm always looking at things. I like have something in my brain.
Tinkering.
Yeah. Not necessarily a stir until done type thing, because that's when you can get into some real problems, especially with software development. Not being the developer myself, but that's how I think it's called feature creep or feature creeper gets into software, is when it's like, oh, well, this would be nice. Well, that would be nice. Well, this would be nice. And you need that filter to put things through, where it's this great, is another thing at the company I worked at, as far as the to-do list goes. You have your A's, your B's, your C priorities, and then you have your now list and your next list, and that helps you organize things. It's especially true for when you're developing software, because there's certain features that are more important than other ones that go on your now list. And then there's certain ones that could be added later that go on your next list. And I just think it's a nice universal principle of a way to look at things to be more efficient with what you're doing. Because if you're focusing on a C priority on your next list, when you have an A priority on your now list, you're not doing something right. And I actually, I wrote a blog post on this before. It was funny because I thought people were going to hate it. And a lot of people really liked it.
Why did you think that?
Well, I just thought it was so simple. It's funny because with a couple of the blog posts I wrote, I thought, man, people are really not going to like this, or they're going to make fun of me for this. But they really liked it because it was really simple.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And it was entitled 80% of people focus on the wrong stuff or something like that. And basically of the point of, in a lot of, this is what I've heard from people, and I've also noticed this in the people that I competed against. A lot of people focus on the wrong things in companies. They are focusing on things that are not going to make them money, basically.
Wow.
I'm trying to think of an example. There was something where this company that we competed against, they put a lot of effort and a lot of time into getting some professor to endorse their equipment, which didn't count for anything. The market doesn't give a crap about that. They just care if it works.
Right.
And so instead of improving their quality, they went and focused on that. It's so funny. In the industry I was in, the biggest problem competitors had was quality. But instead of focusing on that, they would focus on stupid things. Right. I mean, that's not necessarily a stupid thing, but it's just not something that the market necessarily cares about. And it's fascinating when you if you're right in the middle of something, then you can quite often, you just get lost in your priorities and you take a step back and you're like, oh my goodness, I completely missed that. And
I've been noticing, Clayton, I love the way it sounds to me like a lot of this, especially with your software company and the things that I think you've learned through your journey is this is something that I think I never really gave a lot of as much severity as I should have, which is productivity, time management, where to focus all your attention. I'm sort of kind of becoming, it's so funny the way you said, I don't want to be called an entrepreneur. I don't want to be called a hustler. I don't want to be called an entrepreneur. I don't want to be called an expert, but I mean, the truth of the matter is when you work, from dawn to dusk, I mean, and beyond, I can relate to people who use those terms, but I don't like using those terms. You get into this habit now that I'm getting more into my side hustles as opposed to my full-time job, being a writing professor and communication professor, I keep thinking to myself, God, I got this handled. I can do this. I can do it all. I can do that. And I'm starting to learn very tragically, actually, I'm starting to learn dude, you need to trust other people. You need to actually organize a little bit better. Actually, you need to worry about productivity because I used to listen to these podcasts, Clayton, and we got to wrap up here really quickly. So I don't want to take too long on this, but I used to listen to these podcasts. I'm like, what are these people talking about? Productivity hacks, how to focus, how to manage your time. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? Just know what you need to do, finish it and move on. But actually, in this day and age that we're living in where we're constantly plugged in and there is no such thing as really punching out or being off, so to speak, you need to it's become really prescient and really important to understand time management. Clayton, I think this has been just a fabulous, fabulous time. I hope you've had some fun on this show. I just have a couple of questions that I'm kind of trying to adopt this. You'll actually be my first person. I have a couple of questions that I like to ask my guests. I've actually taken it from my classroom. These are questions I like to ask my students at the beginning of every new class as well, but it's I'm kind of doing the reverse on my show, NEZNATION Live. I'm asking my guests at the very end. So I want to ask you, Clayton, what do you feel is your greatest strength?
I think my greatest strength is that I'm very personable, and I play very well with others, even if
I
they
can
don't
vouch for that. Just by this interview, I can vouch for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I hate that when it's like someone says, what's your greatest weakness? Well, I care too much, or I'm too hard to work with. Yeah. So I'm glad you didn't ask me that, because I probably would have said that. But yeah,
I'm going to ask you something similar. Trust me. Get ready. The quiz is coming.
Okay. I think when you look at, what is business ultimately? Well, there's a lot of stuff involved with business. And it's funny because I have like 4 Michael Porter books, but I haven't read any of them, which I should. Eventually I'll read them one day.
Yeah.
But business is people. I mean, you're interacting with people, you're dealing with people. And if you know how to play well with others, if you know how to work on a team with people, if you know how to get things done, even if other people don't necessarily like you for whatever reason or don't want to get things done, and you know how to just be a nice person people like to have a conversation with, then I just think that's so dang important. I mean, it might not be the most important thing, but it definitely, I think, is something that I'm blessed to be able to do that. Which I don't try to say that in a braggadocious way. I just try to say that and like, that's just who I am. That's how I'm wired.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you your greatest weakness, because I agree with you. I think that's a stupid question. But I am going to ask you, what do you feel, Clayton Carroll, what do you feel is something that is really challenging? What's a challenge that you feel like, man, this is something that's really challenging? What's challenging you right now that you can share? That's something that is maybe a little transparent and forthcoming.
Well, I think
besides being a father,
there's a few things. Yeah.
We all know that's challenging. I can vouch for that.
Yeah. I think there's a few things. I think one of them is sort of balancing your family life with having to work a lot, because when you start a company,
dude, that's it.
I mean,
that's me in a nutshell.
Really, yeah. So you get it. I mean, really, I don't have an answer for it. I don't know. I'm just trying to feel my way through it. Really, I think a lot of it has to do with communication and just checking in on your spouse, or, just getting a temperature on your kids to see, because I try to spend time every day after I get done working with my wife and my son for at least a little bit. And sometimes I need to spend more, sometimes less, whatever. But I think that's a challenge. Another thing that, and my wife will totally agree with me on this, is distractions. Because my phone, I have all my alerts on during the day.
Right.
The problem is, you get something, it's not just the alert and checking on it, it's I'm going to start scrolling my feed, or, hey, I'm going to look into
the other distractions. Once you get pulled into the platform or the email or something or whatever, even if it's just your email, then it's like, wait a minute, I forgot about that. And then it's like you said, snowballs. Yeah.
I
love that, because I feel I can share that challenge with you for sure.
Yeah. And I think sort of the last thing that's really been weighing heavy on my mind, which is I spent a lot of time in theory with social media marketing. As far as everything besides social media marketing, the aspects of it, I've done that. I've gone through it. I know it. But with social media, I haven't done it for selling. I volunteer for a marketing association. I've been working for them since December. But as far as like that for the company, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what to do, but I still struggle with that every day. And I struggle with self-doubt of, okay, am I going to be able to do it? And because I haven't done it before.
I love your honesty.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I think I can do it. I'm going to try my best to do it, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Good for you, man.
It definitely worries me. So,
it's beautiful what you're saying. And if I could say anything to that point, that what you just said, Clayton, is you just keep doing you, and you just understand that failure is actually a beautiful teacher. I think it can be one of the greatest teachers out there. And it's a great way to kind of give yourself a litmus test of how you need to re-strategize and reevaluate. I mean, again, this is kind of what my whole gig is about, is mindsets, is approaching it with a different pair of eyes, looking at those kind of those obstacles, those hurdles in a different light, and kind of seeing them as like, not so much this means there's something wrong with me, rather than, okay, how do I look at this? How do I tactically, strategically, how do I actually embrace this problem, this failure, this mistake, but keep moving forward? Don't let it stop you. I think you're going to be just fine. Okay, the last question, because we're running out of time. The last question, and I think this is the deepest question, I hope. What is the one thing in your 29 years of age, what is the one thing in your 29 years of age, Clayton, that you could share with NEZNATION that you feel, something you picked up, something you've learned, maybe something you heard, maybe something you learned from an experience, from an uncle, or anything? What is one thing that you could share with NEZNATION that you feel has really been like something that has always continually brought you value and reminded you of what's important, and is something that you can share with us? Some kind of tool, some kind of device, some kind of experience, some kind of, it can be faith too. What is it that you feel in your life experience has really taught you the most and helped you the most?
Well, I think the one thing that comes to mind is stop caring about other people. Now, what I mean by that is not like, you shouldn't care. Like, obviously you should care about other people.
Yeah. Their opinions.
Love your neighbor. Yeah. You should love your neighbor as yourself. But what I mean by that is it's sort of like it's a two-pronged thing. So on the first part of that, it's as hard as you can acknowledge somebody's opinion, but at the same time know that it's not up to them, it's up to you. And ultimately, you have to be comfortable with you. It doesn't matter what they think about you, it's really difficult, especially when you get negative comments about things.
Right.
And I remember the first time I came across this, when I was early on putting out content, I tried to be as honest as I could and just say where I was at in experience level, and somebody still came after me for it, which I have no idea why. And I took it very personally, because like with anything, when you create anything, I think it's almost impossible not to take any feedback personally, but at the same time, not take it personally. And I am not there totally as a content creator or a creator of anything. I try to focus on that and just continuously improve to get to that point, because that's where I'd like to be. But I think on the other side of things, like if someone wants to talk about somebody, or let's just call it gossip, because that's what it is, I really don't care. I really don't care, because it's not going to positively affect things.
Yeah.
And I'm very comfortable in who I am, and I have enough going on in my life to worry about what other people are doing.
Right.
Now, obviously, I am not perfect when it comes to that. I'm like everybody else. Sometimes I can't help myself when it comes to talking about somebody. But I just, as much as I can, I get to a point where it's just apathy. I'm very apathetic towards it.
Right.
And I think if you can get to
consider
the point
that a blessing, my friend. Consider that a blessing.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people who, they get their juices going. I think that's the whole reason why you've got these shows like The Real Housewives or what have you, some of these reality TV shows. I think they thrive on people's desire for,
you said this about me, and you said that about. It's like, oh my gosh.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Clayton, I love the way you answered all those questions, and thank you for. I just want to say right now, we're going to wrap up here. This has been an absolute pleasure, and I hope to God if you're watching this on the replay, students, and if you're watching this on the replay, NEZNATION, and everybody out there. Listen to what, Clayton, his real world experiential experience, trusting himself, trusting his faith, trusting his family, being somebody who is focusing on things that are productive and not going to detract and not going to bring him down. And I think that there's nothing but success in your future, my friend. I wish you much continued success. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Why don't you do this? go ahead and tell the NEZNATION audience where they can find you. I'm going to leave the notes where they can find you and links, but maybe somewhere, specifically right now, tell NEZNATION where they can find Clayton Carroll and where they can maybe be a part of your journey, be a part of your software development process and your sales and marketing. And then we'll wrap up. Go ahead.
Well, at the risk of being unfunny with a corny joke, I'm kind of like an infomercial. You can find me at every major retailer under the same username.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mean across all platforms? Okay.
Yeah. It's like I said to my wife the other day. Instead of saying I set my alarm for 5 a.m., I said I have a 5 a.m. tea time.
5 a.m. tea time, right?
Sometimes sometimes I go a few layers too deep a lot of times with some things. But
nice.
On Facebook, Clayton, Clayton J, not the letter, spelled out Jay, and then 101. So same thing on Twitter at ClaytonJ101. Also on Instagram at ClaytonJ101. And that's sort of, if I had to say where mainly my attention was, it's mainly on Instagram right now, although that could change tomorrow. It depends.
Right.
Same thing on Snapchat, ClaytonJ101. Also on a social network called Gab, ClaytonJ101. And also on YouTube. With that one, it's not ClaytonJ101. It's ERP101. It's either ERP101 or ERP101 apps. But if you find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or
you'll
Snapchat,
find all that stuff.
then you'll find everything because, you'll see it linked up in my bio and I'll be tweeting about it or
awesome.
Whatever. So,
well, hey man, that's just fantastic. And thank you again to Clayton Carroll. Thank you again to everybody who's been watching. Thank you for all the likes and all the shares. And if you're new to my page, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe channel so you can always get notified when I'm going to be posting all of these interviews with a lot of value. This is one you're definitely going to want to watch again and again because I think there was a lot of crucial elements to becoming somebody who wants to be successful in these arenas. If you're watching this on my Facebook page, hit that like button, hit those notifications so you can always be notified when we go live. NEZNATION, on behalf of Clayton Carroll, this is your host, Professor Nez, wishing you a wonderful evening. Thanking you so much for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
And thank you for having me. I didn't say that yet.